Welcome to the latest edition of Founders Tales. Delighted to be joined today by Russ Martin, who is the co-founder of RampRight. Russ, great to have you on. Do you want to give everyone an intro to yourself and your business?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. As you mentioned, I'm the co-founder of RampRight. RampRight is the first ramp intelligence platform, and basically the idea is to give objective, measurable, real-time scoreboards to internal ramping situations. It's something that we found historically has been very subjective-based, very participation and activity-based. And what we found with a little bit of research and a little bit of time is there's actually an awful lot of risk and opportunity within that blind spot. And so, yeah, we've been going out for a few months, and it's really exciting to talk about it with you today.
Fantastic. And taking things back, what was the problem that first sparked the idea for the company?
Yeah, I think, formerly I was a chief revenue officer of a company. I was the head of global revenue at a different company right after that. And I kind of thought about this whole process of you spend so much money on hiring the right person, and you spend so much money on developing products and like bringing them to market through marketing efforts or narratives or, whatever it is. How do you actually know when someone can do the job that you need them to do? And, when you're in a revenue leading position, you have to forecast and you have to create quotas and you have to create growth plans. But then you're hiring these new classes of people and you're saying, all right, I hired this person. I need them to do $1 million quota. But the first 2, 3, 4 months, it's a lot of, you have no idea if they can do it. Like maybe they interviewed particularly well and you're super excited about them, but excitement doesn't fill up a quota. And so we started to realize and ask questions of how these different companies, how do you measure onboarding? How do you measure, ramp? And how do you measure knowing, can they actually execute against their job? And we found after a lot of conversations, nobody really had an objective way to do it. It was all just a lot of, we're really excited for this class. We think they're going to be really good. You follow up the question, why do you think that? And it's like, oh, they're just really excited to be here. And quite frankly, that's kind of the bar that we're building up from.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And you mentioned you guys have been running for a few months now. How does the product look today versus your first MVP?
It's different. It's very, very different, right? I think, both myself and my co-founder, RJ Irving, are wise enough to know that, we know nothing from old Socrates, and we're trying to take the voices of those around us and really listen to the pain points and try to piece together, where we started our MVP, which was really just trying to provide a structure and a couple of milestones for someone to go through an onboarding. And what we've transitioned that into today is just completely different. It's pattern recognition, using AI to understand risk and opportunity in real time. It's associating revenue to that risk in real time as well. And so, if you are a revenue leader, you can see how much risk is in your forecast based on how someone is ramping in real time. That was never even a blip on our radar when we started this kind of thing. And so, I think, RJ in particular has been an absolute wizard in building out something really, really strong and continuing to iterate on the ideas that we hear from, the public and the people we're having within conversations of, hey, if we've heard 5 people say the exact same thing, this might actually be a meaningful pain point. Why don't we look into developing that and add it to our product roadmap?
Yeah. Cool. You mentioned RJ, your co-founder there. How do you guys divide responsibilities day to day, and what have you guys learned about being co-founders?
Yeah, I think we're kind of a beautiful marriage, Chris, in the fact that what RJ is exceptional at, I am completely awful at. He is a builder, he is a developer, he is a product guy. Like, he can see something and see a problem and think to himself, I logically know how I'm going to attack this problem and build for that. And I'm kind of the revenue side of things. I love building go-to-market motions and building pipelines that, are going to drive sales for us. And I think complementing each other in that sense of, I know exactly what you're going to do and you're great at it, go do it. And he feels, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm going to say it because it's me on this one. I think he feels the same way about me. And the ability to kind of ping and pong off of each other, where he says, I have a new feature, go figure out what the world thinks about it, and I can go get meaningful feedback and drive sales within that feature has been really, really useful. And then from a divide and conquer standpoint, it's really just he's great at what he's great at. I try to focus on where I have experience, and then together it's kind of led us to where we are today.
Fantastic. It sounds like it's working well, so that's good to hear. And
so far so good.
Yeah, long may that continue. So what's been the hardest founder moment that you've had to deal with so far, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, I think there was an idea, honestly, Chris, in the beginning, that our product was so incredibly strong and solving such an amazing blind spot that sales cycles would be like that, right? Yeah. I've seen and overseen so many different sales cycles. I thought, hey, this is going to be maybe a 2 to 3 week sales cycle because of how strong our product is. And I think when you're introducing a new idea to the market, it just takes time. And I think where, you could let hey, we didn't sign anyone the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, are we okay? And, you coupling that with every single time you sign on LinkedIn, it's oh, we just raised $150 billion in our second week of being a company. It's oh man, are we okay? Is this going in the right direction? But I think truthfully, being a little bit more seasoned in our careers, being able to take a really holistic step back and saying we're fine. All the conversations are going in the right direction. Maybe it's not a 4 week sales cycle. Maybe it's a 6 or 8 week sales cycle, but nobody's telling us no. It's just that maybe they didn't have budget planned out for it yet, or maybe they're trying to figure out how they fit this in their tech stack. And I think that was, it was a moment that knocked us on our heels for a quick second of all right, maybe this isn't the flip the light switch type of sales cycle. But once you, again, take a step back, take a deep breath, realize the value that you're bringing to someone and the fact that you are introducing a new category, it just takes a little bit of time. And I think, it's led us to where we are today, because we just continue to push through it.
Okay. Got it. I think you're touching going into this kind of now, but when we spoke before, you said that the 23-year-old you probably wouldn't have been able to do this, whereas the 41-year-old can.
Yeah.
So what experience specifically do you think has given you that platform? Do you think it's kind of your judgment, confidence, the network you have, scar tissue? What do you think it is?
Honestly, Chris, probably all of the above, right? I mean, I've got 15 plus years in go-to-market motions. I kind of understand the signals of hey, this is worth pursuing and we're going to keep going behind it, or this isn't working. It's okay to turn it off and pivot off into, where we are seeing better traction. I also think having a really robust network, right? I mean, instead of having to start, cold calling everybody on day one, I was able to reach out to my network. And that's where we drove our first pipeline from. And then, my network introduced me to their extended network and so on and so forth. And so we've had months of building pipeline where nothing was truly just cold. And then about a month ago, we actually engaged with a marketing agency and we really started our outbound and our inbound motion. And it became, more of the traditional cold call and cold email and cold LinkedIn messages, which luckily enough, we found some traction in, which is great. But I think being older and having that built-in just network of individuals willing to pick up a phone call, willing to answer an email, completely changes how quickly you can get something off the ground. And then I think I answered it a little bit in my last question too, is just, understanding not every no is life and death. Not every no is a door slammed in your face. It's just an opportunity to figure out how to open the next door. And I'm not sure at 23 years old, I would have significantly more hair, but I'm not sure that I would necessarily have the wherewithal to take a no in such a, it's okay type of fashion. I would have seen a no back then of okay, we need to fold this. I need to go get a job. This is not going to ever work. And I think, again, it comes with time, it comes with patience, and it comes with just, having seen the movie quite a few times before.
Yeah, and you've got the perspective you need, right?
Exactly.
Cool. And you've lived multiple places, Canada, New York, Philly, but you've chose to kind of put down the roots personally, professionally in Boston. So what do you feel Boston gives you as a founder?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, and it probably sounds a little bit interesting, but it gives me and my family, right? I grew up 2 hours outside of Boston, and there is, so much that I've learned from both of my parents. My dad was a career salesperson. My mom was a career HR executive. Having them so close to me is something very, very nice when you're building a company and you happen to bump into them, or you happen to, see them and ask a couple of questions because they popped up. And my wife is from here as well. And so the sense of being grounded and surrounded by family, first and foremost, it just gives you such a great building block to start a company from. And then from there, I think we're starting to get more and more traction. Boston is a phenomenal place for startups. There are so many resources, so many great higher education institutions. You have Harvard, you have MIT, you have Tufts, you have all these different places right within the city limits that give you so many different resources to be great. And then not for nothing, but we're building in software, right? And it doesn't mean that we're only going to, work with software companies. We certainly aren't. We already have quite a few companies that fall well with outside the world of software. But Boston is a software hub for building. And so being around companies that are experiencing some of the pain points that we are, experiencing some of the hurdles, and being able to bounce ideas off of people, that's invaluable. And Boston gives us that opportunity every single day, which I think is why we're here. We're going to be here. We don't plan to necessarily move our HQ anywhere else.
Yep. And apart from the university ecosystem and the talent, the awesome talent pipeline that comes from that, are there any particular local meetups, mentors, resources that have made a difference so far?
I think honestly, just the community of where I went to university, Trinity College, there are a lot of individuals in Boston that have opened up their doors. And so the Trinity alumni network here has been incredibly strong. My co-founder went to College of the Holy Cross in Worcester, same thing, wonderful community. And then we've met different leaders throughout here. I was on Matt Crane's podcast a couple of weeks back called The Lantern. He's opened up a bunch of doors for us. I'm going to something in a couple of weeks that's all retreat focused on founders, focused on venture capital. And so I just think there's a lot of different opportunities within the Boston DMA for someone kind of, within where we are, I should say, as a company.
Yep. And it's probably been quite a whirlwind of a few months, but if you could send just one message back to Russ on day one of RampRight, what would that message be?
Yeah, it's probably the question that I've thought the most about. I think the message I would send back to him is just keep going, always keep going. I think it's really funny. One of the life lessons that I learned from playing sports is you really try to never get too high. You really try to never get too low. You try to keep a very even balance. And I think I'm really, really good at that as an auxiliary revenue leader at different companies. I think as a startup founder, it's like this. It's like one day you're kind of all right, what private jet should I take to the Masters next year? And then the next day you're like, I have no money left. And so it's trying to really balance yourself and just keep going and keep going and keep going. It's something that we've obviously been able to do. But as I said to you before, there's definitely a few moments where you're just knocked back on your heels, and you have to just dig right in and say, just keep going. And to me, it's something we've been able to do, and it's something that I would definitely remind myself on day one.
Yeah. You can even have those feelings on the same day. Not
exactly. Oh, you do. Oh, you absolutely do. Yeah. A conversation in the morning versus a conversation in the afternoon can really change things fast.
Cool. And then, presuming that family plays a key part in this from what you've said, but how do you personally stay sane when it comes to dealing with those peaks and troughs of building out a startup?
Yeah, I think it's the 41-year-old in me versus the 23-year-old Chris. And listen, we all need income. We all need money to live and survive. But I think having perspective as to what's really important in life has really started to ground me as I've gotten older. The health of my wife and my boys, and understanding that we do have a roof over our heads, and we are okay, and I get to do this. My family is supporting me to get to go do something like this and potentially live out a dream that I've always had. I'm very appreciative for that. And so I try to very much so approach RampRight every single day with excitement and anticipation and respect for the fact that I have an opportunity to do this, because there are a lot of individuals that may not have the opportunity to risk a lot and go try to start something from the ground up. And so I try to remind myself how appreciative I am to my friends and my family, and to the support system that I have in place to be able to go and do something like this.
Yeah, I love that. So finally, what's next for yourself and RampRight?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just to keep growing and keep pushing ourselves forward. I think we've validated quite a few, go-to-market motions at this point. We've signed some clients at this point, which is awesome. And then I think at this point, it's probably looking to see, do we want to continue to bootstrap? Do we want to fundraise? What does fundraising look like for us right now? And how would we best use the funds? And yeah, it's kind of taking it day by day. I think, the one thing that we try to really hold ourselves accountable to is like winning the week, and not necessarily worried about like winning the month, winning the quarter, winning the half a year yet. Like, it's like, let's just know that at the end of every Friday, RampRight has moved forward. And so, I think we've done that almost every single week that we've been in existence. And so what's next for RampRight is win next week. And, keep pushing forward and keep getting more conversations and more contracts out. And then, from the professional side, at some point, it's probably how do we put, the right go-to-market motions, and how do we fund them in place to really knock this thing out of the park?
Yeah, well, good luck with that. I think a week can definitely be a long time in startup world. So look at it that way is probably a beneficial thing. So listen, thanks very much for joining today, Russ. Love talking to you and having you on the podcast, and best of luck to yourself and RampRight moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Really had a lot of fun today. Really appreciate the opportunity.